Do you know that the fate of the world is measured by a clock? It all began in the aftermath of World War II, in a world grappling with the terrifying power of nuclear weapons. Scientists, the very creators of these devastating tools, recognized the need for a symbol, a visual representation of how close humanity stands to potential global annihilation. This is the story of the Doomsday Clock. In 1947, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists unveiled the Doomsday Clock. The bulletin was founded by a group called the Atomic Scientists of Chicago in September 1945. Its founding members and sponsors were scientists who had contributed to the development of the first atomic bombs as part of the Manhattan Project, including physicists Albert Einstein, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and Eugene Rabinovich. Their mission was to communicate with other scientists about the moral and social responsibilities regarding nuclear energy and to educate the public about its possible consequences.
Science has profoundly altered the conditions of man's life, both materially and in ways of the spirit as well. It has extended the range of questions in which man has a choice. It has extended man's freedom to make significant decisions. No one can predict what vast new continents of knowledge the future of science will discover. But we know that as long as men are free to ask what they will, free to say what they think, free to think what they must, science will never regress, and freedom itself will never be wholly lost.
Artist Mathilde Langsdorff designed the bulletin's cover. She initially considered using the symbol for uranium in her design, but she decided on a clock to convey the urgency of getting atomic weapons under control. Her design featured 4 white dots representing the hours 9 through 12. A black bar represented the hour hand and a white bar represented the minute hand. Her final design showed a clock set at 7 minutes to midnight. Metaphorically, midnight symbolized global catastrophe, and the minutes represented our proximity to that end. Since its invention in 1947, the clock has been reset 25 times. The clock was reset for the first time to 3 minutes to midnight in 1949. The reason for the change was the first atomic bomb test by the Soviet Union, which marked the beginning of the world's nuclear arms race. In 1943, after the United States and the Soviet Union tested their first hydrogen bombs, the Doomsday Clock was advanced to 2 minutes to midnight. The clock's closest approach to midnight since 1947 occurred in January 2023, when it was reset to 90 seconds to midnight, in response to eroding norms of international conduct and thinly veiled threats to use nuclear weapons made by the Russian government in Russia's war with Ukraine, according to a statement in the bulletin. On a few occasions, however, the Doomsday Clock has been set back from midnight when political conditions improved and reduced the threat of nuclear weapons. In 1960, it was set back to 7 minutes to midnight because international negotiations were taking place in Geneva to end nuclear. It was set back further to 12 minutes to midnight in 1963 after the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which banned nuclear testing in Earth's atmosphere, outer space, and underwater. It has since been set backward 8 times and forward 17 times. In 1991, the clock was reset to 17 minutes to midnight. The decision came after the signing of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty by the Soviet Union and the United States, which was an agreement designed to reduce the nuclear weapons arsenals of both countries. During most of the clock's history, the decisions to change the clock's time were made by the bulletin editor-in-chief, Eugene Rabinovich, a Russian-American physicist who had become a leader in the global disarmament movement. Rabinovich based his decisions to conversations with other scientists and government experts regarding political and technological developments. After his death in 1973, the responsibility for moving the Doomsday Clock's minute hand went to a board made up of various experts in nuclear technology and climate science, which includes 9 Nobel laureates. It meets twice a year to discuss world conditions and whether changing the clock is necessary. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, the end of the Cold War in 1991, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change in 2015, all these events have moved the clock's hands forward and backward, reflecting our progress and setbacks. But the Doomsday Clock isn't just about nuclear threats. Over the decades, it has evolved to include other existential dangers, such as climate change, bioterrorism, and disruptive technologies. They have to consider not just the immediate threats, but the cascading effects of climate change, cyber threats, and biological risks. The Doomsday Clock is a holistic measure of all these factors. It's a stark reminder of how interconnected and fragile our world truly is. Each tick closer to midnight is a call to action for global leaders and citizens alike. In recent years, we've faced a convergence of crises, escalating geopolitical tensions, rampant misinformation, climate disasters, and a pandemic that has tested our resilience. Each of these challenges has nudged the clock closer to midnight. Today, the Doomsday Clock stands at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been. This sobering assessment reflects the precariousness of our current global situation. But the clock is more than just a symbol of doom. It's also a beacon of hope. It's a call to action, a reminder that we have the power to change our trajectory. For climate activists fighting for a greener future, to scientists working on innovative solutions, people around the world are heeding the call. The Doomsday Clock urges us to take responsibility for our future and to work together to push those hands away from midnight. The story of the Doomsday Clock is not just about counting down to catastrophe. It's about the collective efforts we can make to turn back the hands of time. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.